Well, good morning, KOTA Territory. Welcome to KOTA Now Author Spotlight. Today we have writer Sean Covel. Let me bring up your name here real quick so people can kind of see your name. I know that you're a very well-known name around here in the Black Hills, especially because actually Black Hills, South Dakota, more like
Well, that's the great thing about South Dakota. Everybody's famous.
right?
Yeah.
No, exactly. So kind of let's just start off. We're talking about your career, talking about you. Before we even talk about you, though, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well this morning, except I'm really nervous about talking about me now. Like, suddenly I don't know, I don't know anything about my history. So, yeah, but it's good. It's good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. We got done with Good Morning Black Hills, where we interviewed you there for like 3 minutes.
Thank you for that.
No,
It was a great interview.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us on the show. I know sometimes it can be a lot, especially for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
A lot for a little bit of time. But
the economy of words is not my strong point.
No,
So hang on to your butt.
no, I feel that. So kind of just starting off, how did you get into writing?
Yeah, I mean, my path to writing, my path to entertainment tracks back to really sucking at sports. Just so badly.
I can relate with you on that one.
Okay, yeah, that's how we end up in media.
Yeah, right?
Nobody good at sports comes into media except the people that talk about it.
Let me ask you this before we get into kind of history. What sport were you bad at?
Oh, well, everything Edgemont had to offer. But, so in my freshman year, I wrestled the 130-pound weight class. I was 6'3", and I only lost one match my entire wrestling career, because I only wrestled one match my entire wrestling career, against a guy named J.C. Woodward, who is now a national champion bull rider.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a title.
He tied me into a knot and broke all the fingers on my left hand and pinned me in 30 seconds, and it was the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me, because I sucked so bad at sports, and put me on the path to telling stories and writing books.
No, that's fair. Mine was soccer, but
Yep.
I ended up on the news.
Congratulations!
Yeah. But let's talk.
No, we're not
Enough of me.
abandoning that. No. How did you end up in the news? What had you done?
No, that was just I just realized that I wanted to do soccer, but then it just wasn't for me. I was told by my coach by the during tryouts, I was like, maybe this isn't for you. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, you'll find another path.
Yeah. It's like, all right, let's see what else I can do. I'm not as bad at. But let's enough of me. Let's talk about you. So you were saying, kind of what got you into writing. Let's talk about some of your writing career. You said you on Good Morning Black Hills, you mentioned that you started off as kind of writing for TV, for films and stuff like that.
Actually, no. I started producing.
Producing, okay.
I grew up in Edgemont and then left Edgemont to the University of Nebraska ... at Kearney, which is a very charming mowed down chunk of cornfield in the middle of Nebraska. And after that, I ended up in San Francisco. I always wanted to make movies, and I knew that they were made in California. And one of my professors at UNK, when I was talking about, oh gosh, maybe I'll move to Omaha and try advertising, and eventually I'll figure out maybe how to get to movies.
Right.
He said, Roy Hyatt was his name, he said, listen, you can be poor anywhere. So go be poor in California and get on the path to doing the thing you want to do. Which is really cool. I was poor. I sold my car for the money to rent a U-Haul and put a motorcycle and the mattress in the back of it, and moved to California to make movies. And I moved to San Francisco, which is not where they make movies at all.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. And turns out, down to the mile, the distance between San Francisco and Hollywood, it's the exact same thing as wanting to work at Mount Rushmore, so you move to Sioux Falls, 360 miles away.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal.
Not great. So in that year, tech was popping, and I became a headhunter, and I learned about VCs, and I learned about creating something from nothing, creative business. That I always wanted to do it in movies, so I made dear friends that said you have to go to LA and go to USC. So I did.
No, and I mean, hey, now you're back here, writing books, children's books, and I mean, I know it's to me, it's just kind of crazy how you go from that to writing children's books, especially because, I mean, something that you said on Good Morning Black Hills was being able to tell that story, being able to be creative. So, I mean, is there that kind of, when you start writing a children's book, is there that kind of creativity that goes into it? I know a lot of them have to be very artsy, they have to pop out, stand out, especially to catch a child's attention. I mean, is that something that you keep in mind when you write?
You know, a phrase we use in film is, in the specific is the universal. So you want to drill down into something that's unique and weird and special, and if you do that and you hit something that's deeply specific, you can have sort of a cultural resonance. It's a weird thing to say, but kind of like we talked about on air, producing movies, great, it was fun, I did it for 15 years. But then I learned to find stories that were unique and figure out how to develop them out. So my first children's book out was Porter the Hoarder.
And I was going to say, before we go on, let's,
this is the one?
Yep, camera.
I don't know where we're going. Hi, Mom. The first book out was Porter the Hoarder. It's based on a character created by Rebecca Swift, who lives in Bridgewater, South Dakota. And she had just made this character out of felt. And when I saw it, I said, what is that thing? And she said, oh, that's Porter the Hoarder. She's based on my daughter who was hoarding a bunch of candy. And this image just snapped into my mind as a voice, and then also as a game. Knew it could be a look and find book that a big read with a little. And so, you know, just like making a movie, I went out to tell the story of this character, and the right format was a children's book. And she says weird stuff, and it has resonated, so this has gone to every family with a first grader in South Dakota for the last 4 years.
Cool. And I mean, you mentioned look and find. What does that mean?
So look and find, in this case, every book, there are going to be 64 in the series. These are all the Porter the Hoarders. Currently there are 7. And each book has its own world. So in the case of Porter the Hoarder in the Ransack Room, the story is she's in her room and she needs to clean it up because she's an absolute hoarder.
Right.
And if she does, she'll find a gold coin worth 3 truckloads of candy. So the game starts, and you help her find her things like a collection of 10 snotty handkerchiefs. So a big parent, sibling, or adult at home is reading with a little K through 3rd grader, and you find all the snotty handkerchiefs and ask the question, should she keep them? And then the kiddo will answer yes or no. And she has a massive reaction to that. And then good things like remote control helicopters. And eventually her room kind of dwindles down. The piles get smaller and smaller.
Right.
Until eventually she finds her gold coin. Spoiler, she finds her gold coin worth 3 truckloads of candy. 3 truckloads of candy, which she then takes right back to her room and fills it all the way up to the top.
Man.
Yeah, and
and it kind of encapsulates that, you know, kind of child mentality. You know,
yeah,
a ton of candy.
It does a few things. Like the Porter the Hoarder, obviously kids collect a lot of stuff. Kids' rooms can be messy. We work with a child psychologist on every one of our books, and one of the things we make sure is that we don't have any negative messaging. So in Clean Your Room, there's a real accusation there, and in some homes it can be pretty difficult, so that's a message. Here there's a third party, like Porter needs to clean her room. What is Porter doing? What, should she keep it? Should she not keep it? And and this kind of exploded not only into a reading project, the most successful reading and family engagement project in South Dakota history, actually. But teachers went off and they created 20 different classroom activities to teach emotional fluency and emotional vocabulary and writing sequencing and math, and we had nothing to do with that.
Right.
They created a Spanish language translation of Porter. We just did an American Sign Language translation event, and we do them every year. And like, all of that happened because of South Dakota.
Right.
And now it's expanding to North Dakota, Utah, Montana, and Idaho.
I mean, how does that make you feel?
It's awesome. It's freaking awesome. It's awesome to see kids with your books. It's awesome to even hold a book that you made, but it's super ultra mega awesome to see families get into it, and they find that crack in the schedule, and then they read and play and read and play. And the impact of, I mean, I don't know if you know much about the reading levels in America right now, the fluency levels.
I do not.
Well, let me illuminate. So when I started working with originally the United Way and then South Dakota Statewide Family Engagement Center, they taught me that 32% of elementary school students in the United States, 34% in South Dakota, 34% can read at grade level proficiencies. And that, you know, sucks. Obviously we want to fix that. But I learned that in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, you're learning to read. But then in 3rd, 4th, 5th, you have to be able to read in order to learn. So there's something called the 3rd grade reading fall off. And it's possible in major cities to correlate 3rd grade reading ability to prison capacity planning. The devastation is so big. So the question is how can we touch that? And they created this project to do that and to bring families together.
And I mean, it sounds impressive. It's great for especially younger the younger generation.
Yeah.
It's weird me saying that
because you are the younger generation.
Yes. So, I mean, when we're talking, a little bit about, some of the stuff that you've worked on, some of your career, and as we move forward, I mean, what do you hope, families take from this?
Yeah, I hope that there's a core memory that's made about a weirdo character and playing a game with your family. Like, that's cool. I know, nothing ages you like saying, you're probably too young for this. But there were a whole string of characters, Little Miss Sunshine, Little Miss Happy, Little Miss Mad, and they're designed similar to Porter, and that those stick out in our memories is a really neat cultural touchstone.
Right.
And I hope Porter does that. As you can see, the creative design edict behind this character is that we will never draw anything that a first grader can't draw. Porter's head is a cookie. Her hair is bananas. She has spaghetti, right? So this style of illustration is a lot different than this style of illustration. So each book needs its own thing, and I want Porter to be a thing that these kids are drawing with their families, and they're, making something cool.
No, and it seems like it's an first of all, it's an impressive goal. It's an impressive task to take on, kind of being able to educate the youth of today. And talking a little bit about that education aspect, you recently came out, wrote the most new book with one of the stars airing on Good Morning Black Hills.
Oh, yes, a star from Good Morning Black Hills. Yep. Absolutely true.
So can you talk a little bit about that new project you've been working on? I know, because as we're staying on the topic of education here.
Yeah, absolutely. The new book, which nobody has yet, but that will change dramatically on Monday, it's called Who is the Super Ultra Mega Special Super Special Guest? Rolls off the tongue. Just really trips off the tongue. Who is the Super Ultra Mega Special Super Special Guest is set in a school, and it stars the principal of the school, who is my dog, Tim Finnegan. I don't know if you can see Tim Finnegan. Yeah, Tim's wandering around here somewhere. He's hanging out with your news director. She has treats.
Hey, I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, it's a good plan. And Tim leads this book. This is, Choose Your Own Adventures? Did you ever read Choose Your Own Adventures growing up?
Yes, I did, yes.
Awesome, right?
Yeah.
They're all chapter books. And you're following a story. It goes to this plot line, make a decision, make a decision. Well, those chapter books are usually targeted at ages 12 to 15.
Right.
So any choice you make, it's like follow the ghost upstairs or go downstairs. Oh, I'll follow the ghost. You die.
Right.
That's the outcome. You die. It never comes back into the story. So I created a Choose Your Own Adventure picture book. And this is for first graders and families with first graders. And what's happening is there's a super special guest coming to the school, and they need a super special party. So they reach out to all the families to see, can you help us? Like the Crab family. Can you bring baked treats? And the Crab family is like, yeah, baking underwater might not be the best fit for us, but do you need help with something else? So you choose to bake underwater. Go to page 27.
So, and as we're talking about it, it's the concept behind it, it's very, you said choose your own adventure, right?
Yeah.
You worked on a team to kind of make sure that you were able to kind of incorporate an educational aspect for Porter the Hoarder. Is that kind of the same premise here? Inspiring the kid to read, not only to stay in the lines of a chapter book, but to maybe expand their horizons a little bit.
I think the thing that I can bring to the table is creating a game. And everything in my life now and hopefully forever is going to be about community.
Right.
Creating community. So I can create a game and I can create community. What schools do with that is up to them. And the purpose of Porter, like we mentioned, is to get connection in the home. Well, the purpose of Super Ultra is different. The Family Engagement Center, who expanded Porter with us, they wrapped up their family connection thing around reading. And they said, the problem we face now is getting families to engage with schools because they might not know how. Right? And so the school may ask for something like baked treats, and maybe the family doesn't have time or finances or whatever. But families all have their own superpower. So maybe they could offer to come and chaperone something or send in a coat drive or whatever. So Super Ultra is a game where that happens. And families are offering different things than what the school wants. Now, That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing in education. But what we do is enlist the kiddo in it. Like, these books will be read live in the classroom. And then afterward, the teacher will be like, do you want your own copy of Super Ultra? Well, you get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book. And then there's parent homework that gets assigned. And kids, man, they get excited with their book, but when they find out there's homework for their parents, they lose their minds. So what happens then is, instead of a parent and a school trying to figure out how to work together, this kiddo is ramping this book into the home and demanding to read it. So it creates that cycle that's important to the schools through getting kids excited. I'm not good at short answers.
No, and that's okay. That's why we're here this morning, and not a Good Morning Flying Hills.
The bandwidth of the internet.
Yes. So as we're talking about, this kind of getting the kids excited to read, and we talked a little bit about it, and especially you mentioned it, those reading levels, the
big deal.
Yes. It's books like these that actually, kind of, and going on a personal level, it's books like these that kind of got me interested in reading as I continue to grow up. I mean, I'm a big, you could probably guess where I'm going with this, I'm a big fantasy nerd nowadays.
Awesome.
So,
Same.
It was things of books like these that got me into the whole RPG fantasy setting.
Sure.
So being able to get these kids to use their imagination, and have them interested in a book like this. I mean, the goal, amazing. At least on the level that I'm currently, the lenses that I'm viewing it through.
Cool.
What is your final goal with this? Where do you hope this ends?
My whole goal is to create play. And if I do a good job of that, then that will kind of build out. For example, Porter did a cool job in the Black Hills, right? But it was so successful that then the Family Engagement Center expanded it across South Dakota. And now it's South Dakota, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and I'm going to Idaho at the end of the month to Sun Valley, where we'll launch Porter in Idaho. So it's that whole in the specific is the universal thing. We did the specific, and now we're expanding out to the universal. Porter's rocking it on that.
Right.
Super Ultra doesn't exist yet in anybody's mind, so my hope is that it does the same thing.
Okay, and so kind of capture the same magic that Porter did.
Imagination.
Yes.
That it causes play through imagination. Full stop.
Awesome. And then kind of going with that full stop. Let's make a train stop, because I know you also mentioned that, right?
Ooh, that was nice. That was a smooth segue. That was a good one.
I tried. Thank you.
You succeed.
Thank you. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about I guess the way that I saw it when you first sent me that email.
Sure.
Polar Express type of book.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, what is the goal of that one?
Sure. So this book is called Marlon McDougall's Magical Night, and it will never, ever not be compared to Polar Express because it is a train Christmas book. And Polar Express owns that forever. Yep. I was talking to Meg Warder, who runs the 1880s train in Hill City, and she said Christmas trains Polar Express. And they have an amazing Christmas train thing they do. So she said, I wish I had my own Christmas train book. And I was driving home that night, and I was like, yeah, Polar Express. I mean, gosh, yeah, you get to ride a train to the North Pole.
And you get like a wish at the end.
You get a wish at the end. Yes. Hard to beat that.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, well, what's better than riding a train to the North Pole? Flying one. So I wrote a book, Marlon McDougall's Magical Night, which is essentially about this kiddo named Marlon who lives here in South Dakota, and he's got a crazy grandpa who works on the 1880s train.
And you mentioned South Dakota. That's, first of all, it's in the title.
Yeah.
So we're representing the community.
Representing the community.
Yes.
Well, it's also like set in the book. Let me find some pictures. It's fun to bury your own Easter eggs in these books, but Marlon takes place Christmas Eve, and he's staring out the window at the faces of Mount Rushmore.
So you can look at the faces right there too.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which, by the way, is geographically impossible.
Yeah.
Then his grandpa comes and picks him up. He doesn't know his grandpa's the engineer of the 1880s train Christmas. He doesn't know there's a Christmas train. And then they go through a ride through the hills, where they go through a pigtail by Mount Rushmore, which incidentally is geographically impossible. That's actually not true. I saw a postcard from the 40s, and it was a car on a pigtail with the faces behind it, and that doesn't exist anywhere in the hills now. So,
well, if we can That's an idea we should probably get going. Then,
I mean, we should probably go,
right?
if you would just get into some highway development, that'd be great. Santa shows up, and he becomes train engineer Santa. And he's part of this secret Christmas train, which is the 1880s train, that delivers presents while his reindeer eat this magical hay that helps them fly. Marlin gets a handful of that hay, and he throws it into the boiler of the train, and suddenly the train takes off, and it's flying uncontrolled through the sky.
And now we are an airlines 18.
We're at 1880s Airlines, and it heads, guess where? Toward the faces of Mount Rushmore. It is important to not crash the train into the faces of Mount Rushmore. Marlin gets a hold of the train, kind of puts it under control. It's coming toward a track. He barrel rolls it to come down and land on that track perfectly, and brings it back into town, where he's like, I've got problems. I just flew the town's prized train. I'm grounded forever. And Santa looks to him and says, in all of my many, many long days, I've known all sorts of children with curious ways, and I've known around the world a great trainsman or two. But a boy who flies trains, I know only you. So let's meet here next year and for years down the road. If your grandpa before you, our secret you'll hold. So he's invited then to be part of the 1880s train, the secret trip through Christmas Eve, because he's the boy who flies train.
It's being able to kind of catch that magical moment that some of the more notable worldwide books have kind of gotten known for. And honestly, knowing that, there is that representation of, a very, I guess, it's known nationwide. Maybe not necessarily worldwide, but nationwide, a lot of people know the 1880s. And kind of being able to represent that.
I think it's the longest running and most successful tourist train in America.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's impressive that you were able to kind of catch that magic, especially with that holiday.
I love Christmas so much. I've made Christmas movies. I have Christmas charities. I just love Christmas. So that opportunity was great. A challenge about writing in Christmas is like, there's a canon. Right? There's a thing. You're not going to turn Santa into a 747 driver. You're not going to turn him into a spaceman.
Right.
You have to stay inside the rules. And so kind of a thing I discovered here, an idea I had while driving 385 back to Deadwood, is like, how do reindeer fly? Like, how does that happen?
Right.
So I created a magic hay, and that lets them fly. So they come to Hill City because it's the middle of the trip around the world, and they eat that magic hay that lets them fly. Well, Marlin takes a handful and throws it in the train, and it flies. So playing inside the rules was so fun. And
And you mentioned rules, actually. Let's talk about some of the rules, right? What are some of those rules that you, as a writer, have to stay kind of in line with?
Yeah, what a great question. Rule number one, and this comes out of movies, don't lose the plot. It's really exciting to be like, Marlin's going to fly a train. Oh, let's look at Marlin's other hobbies. Let's meet Marlin's friends. Let's do all this. Same thing with Porter. Same thing with Super Ultra. Super Ultra has spin-off books that do other things that I'm writing now. But I got to keep it focused inside that one story or it just goes blah.
Right.
Everyone. So that's the challenge.
Word soup, a lot of plot soup.
Totally plot soup. Yeah, you get lost in plot soup. Also word count, man. As I've probably shown, I talk a lot. So keeping that down. And every one of my books has a palindromial number of total words. Like Porter has 545. I love palindromes. So each one I have to dial it in to make sure it's a palindrome.
And I mean, what's the ideal word count for you?
Depends on the story.
Okay.
Marlin's heavy. It's like, I think it's 4,334. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of words. But it's a graphic novel that's done as a movie. Porter's around 500-600. Super Ultra is around 700-800. You gotta keep it tight.
Is that something that you've learned as you've continued to write?
Yeah, I mean, Hitchcock says that the length of a movie should be directly proportional to the size of the human bladder. Which is true. A children's book should be directly proportional to the attention span of a child. And I don't have kids.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
by Alfred Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock.
But no, and that I mean, when you put it that way, it does kind of make sense being able to correlate, the word count of a children's book to a child's attention span.
And totally, and it's also about flow, right? Like Porter starts with find 10 of this, but by the end, when she's finding 3 shiny dump trucks, those things are so easy to see. And to this, it's just cruising. So the same with super ultra. It's a choose your own adventure, but we've got to get it to the point where you're not flipping back, so you can hit momentum and stride and close it up.
And actually, going back to super ultra, it's actually really clever, the fact that you made it choose your own, because now kids would want to go back and choose a different, a different scenario.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to bring the book back into the plot. You can't terminate it. You went up the stairs at the end. Now you went up the stairs, it didn't work out. Well, now you're going over here, and now you got to do this. That happened. Well, this whole thing's a choose your own adventure because I was at Sawyer Brewing Company with Pam Lang, who's the executive director of the Statewide Family Engagement Center, Morgan Von Hayden. And they're all talking about, okay, how can we do something that connects schools?
Right.
And we talk, and Morgan's like, I think it should be a choose your own adventure. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. I am not smart enough to write a choose your own adventure, which may be true. And I went home and just sat with it, and I was like, it can't be anything but a choose your own adventure. So then it got real crazy looking when I had Post-it notes all over my office.
I bet it was a kind of a scene out of a TV show where it's like conspiracy theory. This red thread goes to here, this other red thread goes to here, and that one goes into like 3 different.
There was a lot of red threads. Yeah, it was a ball of string before I got done with this book. Yeah.
But and what made you want to make the character a dog?
I know, not just any dog, mind you.
Right.
My dog.
Yes. Well, can we just for some of our viewers?
Sure.
Can we get the name of the superstar?
Oh yes, my dog's name is Tim Finnegan, the fine Irishman. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this. This is a picture of Tim, and we go everywhere together. He travels with me on planes. When I teach, he goes with me, the whole deal. So we're all over the place. And I wanted to figure out a way, like Porter is about this chick, right? Marlin is about this dude, right? How could I depart that and make it just a world of animals? Especially because each of these characters needs to be asked to do something that they're inherently not right for. The porcupines are asked to blow up balloons.
Right.
Bad call. Right?
Yep.
Right? Well, you can't really do that with people. So it was so fun to expand imagination. And as I did that and realized it needed to be in a school, I knew we needed a central plot driver, someone to navigate the choose your own adventure. So the principal, and then I realized that's Tim Finnegan.
That's it, right?
We got to put Tim in the book.
Yeah.
So now he's there.
Okay. And I mean, as we wrap up the interview here, where do you hope? Let's go back to you.
Sure.
Where do you hope your career takes you? Let's say, let's give it time frame of 10 years from now.
Okay. Am I going to be around in 10 years? Let's find out. What a fun game. I haven't really thought about my 10-year plan. My life...
No, taking you back to high school.
I know. Oof. My life has been about sucking at sports. My life has been about storytelling, hearing stories and relaying them and living stories. I was falconing with a bald eagle in Scotland last summer. It was just weird stuff. Anyway, that was a cool time. So, and I'm a super nerd too. I've collected swords since I was 7, and every sword's going to have its own story. So, as I've been able to refine that into a career, it started with movies, has children's books. I'm also a keynote speaker, and I travel around the nation doing different events. And what I'm doing when I'm keynote speaking is just sequencing new stories together. So, to answer your question, for the next 10 years and after, I want to get better and better at being a storyteller in a number of media. And the result of the story that I tell, I want it to be connection and play.
So, and that was actually going to tie into my next question was, are you going to stick with the children's books, or maybe a little test the waters into other?
Yeah, well, Tell you later.
So there's more to come.
Yeah, nothing's like, I'm writing a novel, and then 32 years go by. How's that novel going? Yeah, going great. But yeah, I do have some other plans.
That's good. And then, just final question here.
Yep.
How would you summarize your career so far?
Bizarre and exciting. With an excitement comes a lot of stuff, right? Like your pulse quickens out of fear and anticipation and all those things. And it's, if I had to sum it all up, and I hope that this is not self-aggrandizing, but I think my career has been authentic.
And it sounds like it's been authentic.
I hope so.
All right. Well, is there and kind of before I know I said that was the last question. Guess what?
Keep them coming.
Yep.
We have the internet to fill up.
Which is quite impossible to do so.
Seems to be.
But kind of, where can people go to find some of these books?
Oh, sure. So Marlon McDougall's Magical Night is available on Amazon, but it's also sold at the gift shop of the 1880s train. So pop over and grab one there.
Plus you'll be, sorry for cutting you off, but plus you'll also be supporting a nice local business.
Yeah, totally. And get your tickets to the Christmas train. Like, a lot of good going on there. Porter, there are now 7 books in the series. They're all available on Amazon. And Super Ultra, like, this is one of the only copies that has come out, like physically out.
Right.
So about 10,000 of these will go into the hands and homes of first graders in the state of South Dakota starting Monday through the end of next week, and it is currently only available for free as gifted by the Family Engagement Center to students.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for that. Make sure that we're able to get your books kind of.
I can make it happen.
Interested.
Thank you, Humberto. I appreciate your time and your awesome question.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on to the desk this morning. I know it's 8:42, I believe, right now.
It wasn't when you made me get up. It was less than 8:42.
Yeah, and I bet you're tired now, huh?
Yo, I mean, I don't have your job schedule. What time do you get up and go to work?
I start burning the morning oil, not midnight oil, because at midnight I'm sleeping. But usually around 3 a.m.
You know.
Yep.
3 a.m.
Not too bad.
Scary for the day.
Yeah. Make myself a nice peanut butter jelly sandwich when I get up.
And it gets to work.
Good on you, man. Thank you for joining us again here at the KOTA Now desk. Thank you for being the author of the month that we get to spotlight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, for you folks at home, thank you for joining us. We will see you again next month for KOTA Now's author spotlight. The author still to be a surprise. So thank you for joining us. See you then.